This is from Justin McCain, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. What's up, Kanines? How you doing? I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
Yeah, how's that for a strong start, Mike?
Very strong, right out of the gate.
I thought we'd say Kanines right out of the gate.
Yeah, branding is important.
Branding your fans is important.
Yeah, they got to know who they are, and they are Kanines.
They're Kanines.
Our loyal pooping in the backyard Kanines.
Yep. Taking them to the vet once or twice a year, depending on their health and age. You know. The whole shebang. Okay, Mike.
Waking themselves up with their own farts.
Yeah. Ooh, so I saw this video. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I saw this.
Off topic immediately.
So I watched this video yesterday entitled Man Feeds Farting Wombat. And he's holding a wombat like an infant child with his arm wrapped around its belly. And I didn't know what a wombat was, so I looked it up. And then this video popped up. And wombats can be like 60 to 70 pounds. They're huge. Right. This guy's holding it, and he's holding a cob of corn, and he's feeding it.
Yeah, I've seen this. Go on.
And it farts, and he's like, oh, that wasn't my. And then he starts feeding it, and the wombat is so mean and aggressive trying to eat the corn. It's really simultaneously disturbing and adorable, like one of the films we have picked for this week.
Oh, very
How was
nice.
that for a segue?
Very good. Yeah. Just to let the canine know, just to let the canines know, in case you hear it, it is raining where we are. So if you hear background noise,
it may start to piss.
It may start
to. It might be pissing. Yeah, like a dog does in your backyard.
So what are the movies, Bob?
So the film that I was referencing before is 2020's Wild Mountain Thyme.
Yes.
A nice rom-com. It's on Prime Video in Canada, so if you want to watch it, it's very easy to watch. And our other film is 1962?
That's correct.
1962's La Jetee, a 28-minute sci-fi film made by Chris Marker.
Of the French New Wave.
Of the super French New Wave, like a film made of photographs, and lots of voiceover.
So Wild Mountain Thyme is a bit of a curveball, just because I don't think I hadn't heard of this movie until you brought it up because you had watched it and said it's a stinker.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know me, I love me a rom-com, and I was like, oh, Emily Blunt's in this, I'll watch it, and it's debuting on Prime Video, I'll watch it. And Christopher Walken's in it. Yeah. So the cast is fun. John Hamm's in it as well. So I watched it voluntarily on like a Saturday night because I was by myself, as I usually am. And I was expecting something like okay, and it got worse and worse as the film went on.
Yeah, it did start off on a relatively okay note where I was like, why is this considered so bad? Because it's not actually so bad. But then, it just slowly is terrible by the end.
Yeah. It deteriorates.
Yeah.
And I also wanted Mike to watch it because I wanted to punish him for no reason. And I knew he would find it punishing. And did you?
No, I actually was engaged in the romance. I was trying to, it's like, why won't they get together? Because the entire movie is like a will they, won't they? But there's no justification or communication between the characters for why they're not getting together. They're just like, and also everybody should know that they're all Irish, or the characters are all Irish. So
none of the cast are, but the characters are Irish.
And so they all have the worst Irish accents.
Including, and I think Christopher Walken takes the cake.
He literally, sometimes I'm like, is he doing an accent at all? You can never tell, really.
I think, you know how like everyone has a Christopher Walken impression? Mm-hmm. There is not a single person on the planet who can do an impression of Christopher Walken doing an Irish accent.
Yeah, not even him.
I think it's impossible.
Yeah. His weird stilted rhythm is once again front and center in his performance.
And he does voiceover for the film.
Yeah.
So he's there from, start to finish.
And his first line is "Welcome to Ireland," but in his terrible accent.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Ireland.
That was pretty good. Pretty good.
No, it's bad.
That was like an impression, or like it leaves the impression of the impression without actually, being spot on. So I thought it was pretty good.
Thank you.
So those are the two films this week. I just want to get this out of the way. First similarity, both films are made of still images. Okay, hear me out. All right, because a film is generally shooting 24 frames a second, or in the digital landscape 23.976, but they're technically still images, and La Jetee is famously made of photographs.
That's correct, yes.
Like a Ken Burns documentary, you know what I mean? The photographs move, and like there's zoom ins and zoom outs and dissolves and all that shit, but it's made of photographs, and I think that's one of the sort of most noteworthy things about the film.
Yes.
That it's left its impression in the the historical landscape of cinema.
Another noteworthy thing about it is that it's short, black
28
and
minutes,
white,
baby. Yeah.
And you can watch it on YouTube. So Kanines, you want a little bit of free film school? Watch on YouTube.
Yeah, a free slab of meat.
Yeah, right there for you. But it also inspired the movie 12 Monkeys.
Yes.
So if you've seen 12 Monkeys, you've kind of seen La Jetee.
Yes. What does La Jetee mean?
I believe doesn't it mean like the jetway?
I think so.
Because they're at that airport always.
I guess another similarity is there's like an overabundance of voiceover or voiceover narration in both films.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I'd say there's too much narration in Wild Mountain Thyme.
Yeah, but it's also one of those movies where there's a lot of narration, and then all of a sudden the movie forgets it has to narrate.
And then 45 minutes go by.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, Christopher Walken is back?
Yeah, he's narrating?
This, yeah. Okay, well, let's start contextualizing these movies. What do you want to start with?
I mean, you do yours. You go with...
Okay, great.
Yeah, you do Wild Mountain Thyme.
So, Wild Mountain Thyme is written and directed by John Patrick Shanley, who has had a really interesting career.
Yeah.
So he wrote and directed this film, but he's directed Joe versus the Volcano in 1990, Doubt in 2008, and this. That's it.
Yeah. What a filmography.
He's more of a screenwriter playwright, and so obviously Doubt was based off of his play Doubt, a Parable from 2004, and then he wrote and directed Doubt the film.
Yes.
And he wrote and directed Wild Mountain Thyme, and he wrote and directed Joe versus the Volcano, but he's written lots of films. So let me look it up here. So he wrote Moonstruck, which was like probably his most famous film.
Yes.
As a writer, Five Corners, The January Man, Joe versus the Volcano, Alive, We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. Mike, I know you love that film.
What? He did Doubt and We're Back, A Dinosaur Story?
Yeah, the same guy.
Man's got range.
Yeah, the man really does have range, yeah. And then he wrote Congo, Doubt, and Wild Mountain Thyme. So it's interesting he's only directed 3 films. But he's written lots of stuff. I don't think he's directed any play. Oh, no, he has directed some plays. So he wrote The Big Funk and directed it.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote and directed Beggars in the House of Plenty.
Never heard of it.
He's... oh, you know what? The Kanines are going to love this. He wrote and directed 4 Dogs and a Bone.
Oh,
yeah. He also wrote and directed Missing Marissa, Kissing Christine.
Never heard of it.
How about Where's My Money?
Never heard of it.
How about Cellini?
Really? He wrote that? Just kidding.
Yeah. What about romantic poetry?
Like the concept? He wrote just some romantic poetry?
No, it was Manhattan Theater Club off Broadway.
Oh, okay. Nope, I have not heard of that.
What about Storefront Church?
Nope, never heard of it.
And then so fascinatingly, Wild Mountain Thyme's based off of the play Outside Mullinger, which he wrote, and it's a Broadway show. It premiered in 2014. He didn't direct it, but then he adapted his own play into the screenplay and directed the film.
Yeah.
Which we're now talking about.
And it starred Deborah Messing from Will and Grace.
Oh, you love that. That's a thing. Yeah. It's directed by Doug Hughes. Don't know who that is. Starring Brian F. O'Byrne, Deborah Messing, Deirbla Malloy, and Peter Maloney.
Oh.
And I want to read some critical response. Okay. So Charles Isherwood from the New York Times wrote, "Outside Mullinger represents Mr. Shanley's finest work since Doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Shanley's lyrical writing and the flawless production, directed by Doug Hughes, give such consistent pleasure that even though we know the equations that define rom-coms will add up to the familiar sums, we are happy to watch as they do." So the play was quite a hit. Here's another fun review from USA Today. Had Shanley made Anthony and Rosemary, say, career-obsessed urbanites still living with their folks in the same apartment building, the story would seem ridiculously contrived. But by placing them in a rural setting where dating options are considerably more limited, not just by less dense population, but by cultural and religious mores, he makes their plight more credible and, despite some hokum, intriguing.
Yeah, there was a good amount of hokum.
If Shanley is raising less complicated questions this time, there are flecks of wisdom in his sweetly diverting study. So it was less well reviewed by an Irish publication, the Irish Times, describing it as mystifyingly awful and beyond the edge of awfulness.
Yes. They
and
also called it mixploitation.
Yes. So, I mean, I feel like non-Irish people loved the play, Irish people hated the play, and everyone hated the movie, whether you're Irish or not.
Well, yeah, the movie just seems like it's establishing shots of beautiful Ireland, and then all of the characters are like, let me party a Guinness, you know?
Yes.
That may have been a bit of a Scottish accent. I'm not really sure what I did there,
but I will say, like, Emily Blunt was good. Like, she was given nothing to work with, and I was like, dang, she's got range. Like, she's got the moves. As an actor, she's just super solid.
Christopher Walken also, he did a pretty good job considering what he had to work with.
Sure. I think, you can only get Christopher Walken. You can't get anything else when you hire that guy. And maybe this is the hardest he's ever tried to not be Christopher Walken, and he still was.
He still was. Yeah.
Yeah.
My opinion about the film is that it was miscategorized as a rom-com because part of the what makes a rom-com is that it's one part rom and one part com, and
CALM, right?
No. I mean, it was a very calming film, very low stress, low stakes, but it wasn't. There was literally not a single joke in the film.
No, it wasn't funny. It tried to be funny, if I remember correctly. You've seen the film more recently than I have.
Well, yeah, John Hamm is, I believe, the comic relief.
Right.
But he doesn't really make any, like, jokes still, so...
Right.
Yeah, nobody really makes a joke, but it's still called a rom-com. Is it just because it's not so dire as to be called a drama?
Well, it's not like a romance film like The Notebook is not funny. It's like just intense Nicholas Sparks romance. And this has a levity to it without ever cracking a joke.
Yeah, right.
So I think the levity of it makes it seem or appear like a rom-com without any bits.
Yeah. It's like a weird combination of rom-com like vibes. But with melodrama kind of as its genre in a weird way, because it's not like...
But didn't they describe Doubt as a rom-com when it came out? And that didn't go over well at all.
No.
So I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't know what a rom-com is.
Yeah, well, yeah. It seems like it was categorized as a rom-com, but literally not a single bit of com in it, so...
Yeah, CALM.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
Just kidding.
What else you got to tell us about Wild Mountain Thyme? Also, THYME?
THYM, like the herb, yes.
Fresh herbs.
To be honest, there's a real lack. I kind of scoured the internet for stuff on this film, and it doesn't really have much. It was filmed in Ireland, which is nice.
Yes.
That's really all I have to say. I mean, it got terrible reviews. Its budget was $5.5 million and it made 1.3.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, it's just, basically a turd of a film. There's really not much to say. Like, even, you like go all over the internet looking for fun facts on the production, and there's nothing to say. It's like everyone who worked on it just wanted it to be over.
I have a similarity already.
What is it?
So this movie is the same as Le Jetee in that European landscapes kind of tell the story of the movie.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of
there's also
beautiful Irish landscapes.
There's a heavy use of air travel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're kind of trapped in rural Ireland, except for the escaping via the airport strip, as it were.
I have one more tidbit of information. This is sort of neither here nor there, but also kind of interesting. So John Patrick Shanley, when he was making Doubt, wanted Emily Blunt to play Sister James. The role went to Amy Adams, but so he's been wanting to work with Emily Blunt for a long time. And I guess this is the first time they've ever worked together. But honestly, there's this is probably the most unremarkable film we've ever done on the podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely like if White Noise, and I mean that also in terms of just how extremely Caucasian it is. But if just White Noise was a movie, so you could put this on the background just to make a sound if you needed some sort of sound to fill your background. So
yeah, when you don't want to be in a quiet house, you need to fill the void with some sort of noise that has no impact on you emotionally. This is the film to use.
Yeah, and like the story of the film is basically that this farm boy Anthony won't get to inherit his parents' farm until he marries, and he is constantly being propositioned by his neighbor, Emily Blunt's character, whose name I forget. And
wait, Rosemary.
Rosemary, right?
That's a little on the nose, isn't it? Also a herb.
Yeah. They should have just
damn it.
Yeah. And
why is it called Wild Mountain Thyme?
Because they always are constantly singing that song Wild Mountain Thyme.
Oh,
which I learned is more of a Scottish song.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I think John Patrick Shanley, not sure if he's Irish, but seems like he just kind of was.
No, he's American. He's born in the Bronx.
Yeah, it seemed like he wanted to a lot of people in New York are Irish.
That's true, but he was born. Maybe his parents are Irish, but he's American. He was born in the States.
Well,
so it's it's not like he grew up in Ireland.
Yeah, it just seemed like he wanted to write a movie about Ireland, and it really comes off that way because everything is kind of so cliche. How Irish farmers are represented. It just seems like a romantic version in the eyes of someone who doesn't know anything about it. And I'm speaking as someone who literally knows nothing about this also. So in the movie, there's like a will they or won't they kind of vibe going on the entire time. Yeah. It's never clear why they won't until the end where there's like a big reveal, which is not clear if it's literal or not.
Right.
And this is a spoiler, but it's also kind of what makes this movie interesting and worth talking about, where she's like, "Why don't you love me?" or in her Irish accent, and then he says, "Because I'm a honeybee."
Yeah.
And then he just kind of leaves it at that. And then she's like, you can't marry me even if you're a bee?" And he's like, "No, I can't." And it's very unclear whether that's supposed to be taken 100% literally or if it's some sort of like metaphor. And if it is a metaphor, it's very bad writing because...
Yeah, I think the only way it works is if it's a literal thing and he is, in his mind's eye, a bee stuck in a man's body.
Yeah.
And he wishes he could fly. He's got a little stinger, and...
he does a little dance to communicate.
Yeah.
He barfs out his food, and that becomes food.
Yes. I think he's a literal bee. Thinks he's a literal bee.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a deleted scene where he's dressed like a bee and he's gonna get nasty with Rosemary, but they cut that out because it was too on the nose or something. Who knows? Or maybe it was too much rom.
Well, also I just remembered there's a scene in the movie where he practices proposing to her to a donkey.
Yes.
And then there's this weird guy who just kind of peeks behind
The old dude.
Yeah, the old dude. He just kind of peeks behind whatever little mini brick wall is around. So he's like a paparazzi, but for rural Ireland. And then he spreads rumors that Anthony proposed to a donkey. And I think that's supposed to be the comedy in the film. I think we were supposed to find that funny. But because they kept going back to that.
I mean, I can, on paper, that is a joke.
On paper, and they keep repeating that one joke, so.
Right. Well, isn't there a scene in Jetee when the main character goes back in time and proposes to a donkey, and then he goes back to the present day, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "What?" And then the experiment was over.
Yeah, like you're not going to be the person we're experimenting on anymore if you keep proposing marriage to donkeys.
And he's like, "What? I want to."
Was that a French accent? Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. All right. This is the episode of bad accents. All right.
You posited that maybe he's a insect version of a furry. A fuzzy?
A scaly? No, a fuzzy. A fuzzy. Yeah. Fuzzy.
Yeah, because he's a big fat honeybee.
Exactly. Ooh, wow. That was sultry there, Mike. My goodness. You're making me feel weird. I think he's maybe, I have a fan theory, and this will be coming out in my newest, fanfic novel, Wild Mountain, Thymes, where he dresses like a bee, and then he goes to like a fuzzy conference and has sex with other bees.
And he loses his stinger.
Yeah. Multiple times.
Here's a similarity between the both movies.
Okay.
Between both movies.
Between
the both movies. So in Jetee, he's able to transport back and forward in time, but via his memory.
Yes.
And he encounters a woman who he kind of like connects to. It's this woman from his past that he's kind of has this obsessive memory about. Mm-hmm. And so that's by like connecting to this woman in his memory, he's able to like visit her time. And then they hang out. There's definitely a will they or won't they kind of thing going on with them. So there's a similarity right there.
Yes. I totally agree.
The similarity I was getting at was also that his reality is very hard for her to understand. Like they talk about how he's from the future.
Well, that really cool tree trunk scene, where it shows the rings of age. And then he points outside of the tree and says, "That's where I'm from." That was a really cool moment.
That's a reference to Vertigo, I learned.
Yes. And 12 Monkeys took that even further and literally plays Vertigo in the film.
There you go.
As part of a 24-hour Alfred Hitchcock festival.
Oh, I figured it would just really hit it over the head.
Terry Gilliam's not a subtle filmmaker, so...
He's also not a subtle thinker, it seems like.
No.
Just whenever you hear him talk these days, he's basically making that like transphobic, my gender is a helicopter or whatever the hell kind of joke that like conservatives have, like the one joke they have.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the Monty Python fellows have fallen far in my mind, I guess.
Yeah. Although historically speaking, I believe they all hated him the whole time.
Oh, really?
And he was never, like, really a member in their eyes.
Yeah.
Even though he directed all the films. Did all the animations.
But John Cleese occasionally will say something kind of either transphobic or...
that's true.
Pro-Brexit, maybe? So
Yes. Yeah. I think they are all pretty conservative. Like Clint Eastwood, they fall from grace.
I think Michael Palin and Eric Idle are fine. I bet they're fine.
Probably. At least Eric Idle, yeah. Eric Idle seems chill.
He just seems like he just will take any opportunity to be on TV or on a podcast so he can sing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life and be like, I wrote that song, and talk about it. The Pythons.
The Pythons. Okay, well, we should talk about Jetee because literally there's nothing.
I didn't finish what my thought was.
I
should probably edit out all that Monty Python crap because it's so pointless. But
no, keep it.
But anyway, the point I was trying to get at was that his reality is hard for her to understand, and that she is one of them's from the future, and then in the other movie he is a bee.
Right.
So she can't understand who he is because he apparently is a bee.
But can a bee be said to be or not to be an entire bee? when half the bee is not a bee, due to some ancient injury. Singing.
One could argue that in a way, in Wild Mountain Thyme, Emily Blunt's character, Rosemary, represents their future because she wants them to be a couple and to like build a life together and be farmers and whatever and combine their land, blah, blah, blah. And he has this sort of refusal. So in a way, it's like he's not willing to go into the future because he's held back by something. And I think that's true. That's true of the main character in Jetee as well, because he's offered a trip to the future, and he then asks to go to the past to be with this woman, and then the plot twist happens. Also, both films consist of a plot twist.
What's the plot twist in? Oh yeah, right, in Jetee.
Jetee. It opens with the jetway, and the little boy watches a murder, and then you realize that, and spoiler alert, big slab of meat about to come up here. He witnesses his own murder because his future self is killed in that time, and that's also the sort of what 12 Monkeys is predicated on as well. Yeah, but the plot twist in Wild Mountain Thyme is that your boy Anthony's a bee.
It's so true. So dumb.
I'd say that's a plot twist.
Yeah,
not a good one, but a plot twist nonetheless.
Yeah, Rosemary is a woman from his past, and they have an ill-fated romance. Not unlike the woman from his past in Jetee.
Exactly.
Who he can never be with. Do you have anything else about Wild Mountain Thyme?
Honestly, no. I wrote down 4 sentences, and I've spoken at length about all 4. There's it's shocking how little information there is on this film on the internet. Shocking is the word I would use. Not as shocking as when I was shocked by the line "I'm a bee," but pretty shocking.
I think both movies are about prison in a way.
Okay.
Because the Jetee, the character, is literally a prisoner.
Yeah.
And also he's like, he can't escape from the present no matter how hard he tries.
It's true.
I think actually Wild Mountain Thyme is actually kind of about these characters who are prisoners, because they're prisoners of like Irish culture in a way. Like they're stuck in rural farmland. Like try as they might get out of there, they kind of are drawn back to the ways of life there. And then also like there's these gates that separate their property that they have to like go and try and open whenever they want to like leave. And so they're like gated in. And also there's like nobody there's so few people there where they live. So he's like, I think the big problem with the movie is that Anthony feels like he has to marry Rosemary, or that Rosemary feels like she has to marry him just because, like, who else do they know?
Right.
They don't know anybody.
There's another parallel in the scene in which Rosemary flies to New York to hang out with John Hamm, and then she's immediately brought back to Ireland, like within 24 hours. And that's similar to the main character in Jetee, constantly going to the past and then being tugged into the present.
Yeah, it's like she went to the future, really.
She did. I think New York represents like modern culture within the context of the film, whereas she's like part of this old tradition of farming in rural Ireland.
Well, also the Irish immigrated to New York,
right?
And back in the old days, so it's like kind of the future for the Irish people to like basically move to North America in a sense. So
yeah.
Wow, we're just friggin' brilliant.
I think both films also are experiments.
Okay.
So like Jetee is like a cinematic experiment in that it's just audio mixed with still photographs.
Yes.
And it's a compelling piece of science fiction. And Wild Mountain Thyme is an experiment in, can I make the worst screenplay ever into a film and have people watch it? And the answer is yes, people are watching it.
Yeah, we watched it. You got 2 views out of it.
So I think, they're both like cinematic experiments on their own level.
Oh yeah, I wanted to point out the plot description on the Amazon Prime app, like Prime Video. A pair of star-crossed lovers in Ireland get caught up in their family's land dispute. And it's like, oh boy, that is going to be thrilling.
Describing them as star-crossed lovers is so inaccurate.
Yeah, it's like
Romeo and Juliet were star-crossed lovers. There's never a will they, won't they in Romeo and Juliet. It was they will and they're going to die.
Yeah.
But in this, it's like, will they, won't they? Probably not. There's a B subplot. You know, all this stuff. That's a terrible descriptor for a film.
Yeah. But, you know, the land dispute. Exciting stuff.
Truly, truly.
Yeah, but you mentioned that Emily Blunt's character loves ballet. She goes to New York to see a ballet show, right?
Yes. Yeah.
A similarity is La Jetee. Sounds like a ballet move.
Yeah.
Well, I, in fact, thought I would actually say it is a ballet move because I know nothing about ballet. So I'd be like, do a Jetee.
I did a Jetee is a move. I believe
is
it's
it
spelled
actually?
Different. It is. Yeah, it's spelled differently, I believe. I did
there
ballet
you
for
go.
2 years. And Jetee is like one of the first things you do when you're learning the fundamentals of ballet.
You did ballet for 2 years?
Yeah, in high school.
Did you do 2 years jazz tap?
No, I dabbled in jazz tap. Like I took a workshop once in jazz tap, but it was mostly just like ballet. Ballet is great. Good fitness.
That's good. Yeah. Can you stand on your tippies?
Yes. Still can. My big fat tippies.
Jeez. Well, I'll let you know that I'd done a workshop too. A clown workshop.
Oh, I hate you.
Okay, I
took this workshop just to spite you, Bob.
It's like I feel like
I love clown.
I feel like I can use this in the future. When this is what I thought when I took the clown workshop. I'm going to use this to dig at somebody.
I really need to learn how to play again.
Yeah, you do.
That's nasty.
We need to make you take a play workshop so we can learn to play.
No, thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna do La Jetee right now. I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about it. This is the far more interesting film, I think, to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. You could talk about this movie for more than just one episode.
You know what? Can I bring up another parallel really quick?
I mean, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Both films were directed by directors with sort of bewildering careers.
Okay.
Because I think Chris Marker, his career is really strange.
How so?
From what I gather, the projects were all quite different and sparse. And like a lot of it was like pseudo documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, Shanley's career, he only directed 3 films, some of which would be like 10 to 15 years apart.
Yeah.
And he really didn't direct a lot of theater either, but then he wrote a lot pretty extensively. So I think they're both like kind of odd filmmakers in in how their career shaped out.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Well, good.
Cool. So yeah, the La Jetee is a 1962 science fiction film directed by Chris Marker, who is French, from France.
Yes.
It's made up of almost of still photos, and it tells a story of a nuclear war experiment in time travel. It's shot in black and white and is 28 sweet minutes long. So it's a real easy, quick watch, especially when high or not cool, depending on your experience. So,
yes.
it also inspired...
I would say that's another similarity.
What's
you
that?
could watch both films high and have a very unpleasant time.
Yeah. La Jetee is made up entirely of optically printed photographs, it says. However, there is one actual shot of film, as in like motion picture, and it's like the shot of the woman waking up. Other than that, it is a photographs only kind of vibe going on. And very cool little movie to watch if you're like want to learn about film editing. Because why not just use still photos, and then just like the speed in which the photos change kind of gives you a sense of rhythm in the film. So I thought that was like, I remember watching this movie in film school, and that was kind of a thing we talked about. So I think it still kind of holds up as something that is a very important movie for budding film scholars to watch, I think.
Absolutely.
Also, Chris Marker probably wanted to have more like motion picture shots in the movie, but he could only afford to rent a camera for one afternoon. So they shot the film with a Pentax Spotmatic for the still images, and then the 35 millimeter Arriflex for the pretty much like one shot of motion picture. And we already talked about that. I don't need to read it. Chris Marker is part of the French New Wave. In particular, there's like two little segments of the French New Wave. There's the left bank and the quote unquote right bank, which were the right bank people were like the Cahiers du Cinema people.
Like Truffaut, Godard, all those fuckers,
Godard,
right?
Claude Chabrol.
Right.
And like the right bank people are like the Cahiers du Cinema people were basically like film reviewers, journalists, and they also were like movie buffs. Like they were really into American film. So that's why if you ever see a movie like Godard's A Bout de Soufflet, that being Breathless, or Truffaut's Shoot the Piano Player, which in French is, I think, like Shooter le player de piano. I don't know how to say that in French at all. Beautiful. I just made that up. But
probably like 30% accurate.
Oh yeah, I'm sure most of it's. But anyway, so they were like film buffs kind of, and they kind of used their obsession with movies, American movies kind of, and they reflected it in their own films. And they also kind of skewered or like flipped and remixed, concepts from American film. Breathless being a great example because of how it's like a gangster film, but it just kind of does its own thing. And it has a few things that suggest a gangster movie, but then it just is basically about these two characters hanging out in a hotel and smooching a bunch.
They smooch big time.
Yeah, and the gangster stuff's kind of just a background subplot that is almost forgotten about most of the time. Anyway, so the left bank people, which Chris Marker was a part of, they were kind of older and they were more like multidisciplinary artists. And they also saw film as kind of just an art form and not so much like kind of like literature or paintings and stuff instead of just, movies. So the difference between film and movie is a good way to like delineate the two banks, as it were.
Yeah.
They kind of emerged at the same time, and they also were not like competing ever, really. They always supported each other and advocated for each other. So
it's nice it wasn't competitive. I think that's really refreshing.
Well, yeah, why would it be? I think a lot of people like look at them as like a dichotomy, where it's like these guys versus these guys. What team are you on? Like who you with? Joey Cracker, Ferrari F80. So
wow, yeah, very good.
So Joey Crack being Fat Joe, I believe. This is a rap reference, and Ferrari F50 is 50 Cent. So
Mike knows his rap.
I do,
yeah.
Yeah. So other members of the left bank, aside from Chris Marker, Elaine Renee, I'm just butchering these names. Agnes Varda. Yeah. Love Agnes Varda.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Everybody should check out The Gleaners and I, a documentary about people who just kind of like pick through potatoes. And it's just her kind of like documenting these people just sifting through like a pile of potatoes for the whole movie. And it's just kind of about art, and it's insane kind of this movie. So everybody should watch that. Also other people, Jean-Pierre Melville, Alain Alan.
Tell me.
Alan Rob Grillet, Marguerite Duras, and Jacques Demy.
Nice.
And Jacques Demy, I think, made like Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Yes, he did.
He kind of made those musical movies.
Well, he and like on Mubi right now, I think 4 of his films are on there. And they're all like fucking stone cold classics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another left bank filmmaker, little guy named Steven Spielberg, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Just kidding. Isn't Ready Player One considered a left bank film?
I mean,
because of its, it dissects Western culture and plays with tropes and blah blah blah.
Well, I mean,
am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Okay, all right.
They're
I'm just trying to
definitely.
fuck with you.
I think he was Spielberg's probably of the left bank of. No, he would be of the right bank of the film brats.
Right.
Or movie brats, they were called.
And then Shanley's like North Bank.
Yeah, he's North Bank.
Because Ireland's a little further north than France.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Anyway, so a little bit of history about Chris Marker. He was a journalist. Mm-hmm. He wrote for a Marxist magazine called Esprit.
Of course.
Where he met André Bazin there, who famously created Cahiers de Cinema. And so Marker wrote for Cahiers de Cinema eventually. So, if the Cahiers boys are the ones that are like a specific group, why did he not fit in this? I don't know, because he still wrote for it. Why was he not? Why was he on a separate bank? I think it's just because of the style of movies, because I think he was more of an essayist than he was a narrative person necessarily. He made more documentaries most of the time. Yeah. Proof of that, while he was making La Jetee, he was also making a nearly 3-hour-long documentary called Le Jour Aimé, which came out in 1963. And he just kind of interviews people on the streets of Paris about their personal lives as well as like the political issues of the time. And it's like a freaking epic just documentary about what people were thinking in 1962, I guess. And a lot of people incorrectly attribute him to cinema verite. Chris Marker rails against that, and he says he prefers his own term, cine ma verite, meaning cinema, my truth. What a little wordsmith there, you know?
Wow, yeah, what a clever man. Just
Very
like
clever.
Steven Spielberg.
So anyway, that's all the facts I got about La Jetee. I mean, there's so much to say about this movie, but it's also read a freaking book at a certain point, you know?
Yeah, do your own damn research, Kanines. God, we don't have all day here, Mike and I.
We don't freaking have all day.
It is. I do think it's just it's so polarizing, the viewing experience of these two films, juxtaposed. This might be one of the most polarizing combinations we've ever had, because La Jetee is an astounding film.
Yeah.
And Wild Mountain Thyme is the most blah piece of shit we've ever had on this movie.
Yeah.
Or on this podcast.
I feel like if you recognize one, you don't recognize the other.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if someone knows what these two movies are.
Well, that's why, heroes like you and I are on this planet. That's why we were put here.
That's right.
By the canine god to, to inform the people that these films exist and you should watch them as a double feature just to really perplex yourself.
Yeah. But also it's a bit redundant too, because they're, as we've stated, the same film.
Yeah, they're virtually identical.
Yeah, virtually identical movies.
Yeah, I think La Jetee is I wanted to talk really quickly about, there's a long history of time travel in filmmaking and in science fiction storytelling, but the time travel in La Jetee is really interesting because it's this sort of purely psychological way of traveling where it's he's not actually going, but he's changing his memories by reliving moments. And then he keeps being thrust back into the present. Yeah. And it's just sort of this fascinating, ambiguous exploration of time travel. Whereas most films, when you time travel, you just get into a little bubble or you have a briefcase or a watch or something or a car. And it literally takes you to that time. Yeah. But this film's a more poetic, sort of lyrical way of exploring time travel. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, because it's if you can perceive a different time, you can live in it, man.
Yeah, freak, yeah.
I guess that's the same as Wild Mountain Thyme, where if the characters, they feel they're trapped in Ireland, but if they can perceive New York, they could live there.
Absolutely,
you can escape.
Absolutely,
if you want to.
Another big similarity between the two films here, Mike, and this is a bit of a departure. Just like how there are departures in both films, because planes are departing from the airports. Yeah. There's a death in both films that's sort of catastrophic. Christopher Walken's character dies, And he's the voiceover narrator, and he keeps narrating after he dies somehow. Yeah. But then obviously the main character dies in La Jetee, in the really sort of astounding plot twist that the film ends on. And also Civilization dies in La Jetee, and I think the whole world of 2021 died a little bit when this film came out.
Yeah. I would say in both movies, characters are wearing blindfolds. One of them is a metaphorical blindfold, obviously.
Right.
Because in La Jetee, the time traveling guy is like wearing a blindfold in order to like get into his memories, or maybe it's just an aesthetic choice to make it look futuristic or dystopian.
Right.
Similarity in the other one, just the characters are blind to their love for each other, and they choose to not see sometimes. And then also they choose to wear blinders on their horse. Like they put blinders on their horse. They can choose that blindfold. But then also the metaphorical blindfold that is being a bee in your brain.
Yeah. I think both films have a male character wanting to be something they can't be.
They can't be.
And exactly, BEE. So obviously Anthony can't be a bee, and the main character from La Jetee can't be the partner that he wants to be to that blonde lady.
That's right.
Because he's obligated by his circumstance to be a time traveler and prevent the end of the world. So yeah, also similarly, so this film came out, so Wild Mountain Thyme came out in the middle of a global catastrophe, aka COVID-19. And
your boy COVID.
Yeah, and La Jetee is a post-World War II film, but also depicts a nuclear holocaust.
I mean, when we did that episode about Akira, and that was kind of about World War III also.
Yeah.
And we compared it to a talking cat.
Yes.
We kind of were able to connect the dots and suggest that a talking cat kind of happens in a similar kind of post-war techno dystopia. Would you say that Wild Mountain Thyme could be potentially like a post-war something or other? They show the landscapes, but maybe it's like the world's been devastated and the greens are growing back, like the grass is growing back and all of the buildings are kind of covered with greenery and moss and stuff. And then it's a land dispute because like land is a vital, precious resource. And then the traveling to New York is all in her mind. She manifests John Hamm's character.
Yeah, John Hamm doesn't actually exist.
He doesn't actually exist.
He's a vessel representing the past. Past that no longer exists.
He's such a cliche. He's like a businessman in a fancy suit who shows up to a farm on a Rolls Royce and is like from America. And he just seems like, Americans are like this to a Irish farm lady, and a Irish farm lady is like that to a American bro. So
yeah.
So it's like, of course he's just a cliche. So he's just a figment of her imagination so she can escape via the ballet. The one piece of former culture that she clings on to so she can feel sane. Meanwhile, her ill-fated lover to be is a bee.
To be a bee.
Yeah, he goes mad from the post-war isolation and starts to believe he's a bee, and he uses his metal detector to just try and find pieces of the former society that crumbled.
Right.
So anyway, I think Wild Mountain Thyme is more interesting as like a post-World War III dystopian vision.
Yeah,
than it is as a quote-unquote rom-com.
Yes. ROM-CALM. A rom-comming film.
It is calming, yeah.
Yeah. Is the line not to be or not to be?
It is to be or not to be. That is the question.
And I would say, that's a two-parter for Wild Mountain Thyme. The question to be or not to be is posed in both films. Okay,
yes.
Hear me out. To be or not to be is Anthony's conundrum. He wants to fall in love with Rosemary, but he is a bee. He is to be, but he feels obligated not to be.
Yeah.
And dare I say, the main character in La Jetee wants to be in the past, but cannot be because he's in the present and the future. And then once he tries to stay in the past, he is killed. And also, Wild Mountain Thyme wants to be, but it's a bad film, so it can't be. You know what I mean? You picking up the slab of meat I'm throwing down? Honestly, that would be worth scatting. Just as a callback to a previous episode.
I'm a scat man.
Anywho, that was just a little deep dive into my brain for a second there.
That was brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. You could do a ballet dance to that little monologue I just gave.
I mean, you could. I don't know how to do ballet. You do, apparently.
Right. I used to be a lot more flexible, and let me tell you, I would struggle now. It's been years. Yeah. Anyways, okay, so, like, you got any other little, I guess, we've talked about, there's flirtation after travel. They're both European films.
Yes. They both are a almost fairy tale of time and place.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's like Paris in the future / past.
Yeah,
reminiscing
they're both
about
new
the past
films, French New Wave and Irish exploitation New Wave.
Yeah, well, mixploitation, as the Irish Times says.
Right.
And we're always down for a new -sploitation around here.
Yeah. And they both consist of still images, some moving, some not.
Are you just rereading ones you've already said?
I am. It's just a recap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you have any other similarities?
I do not. No.
I don't either. That's why I'm doing the recap.
Okay. Wow.
I will say, it's been a long time since I've seen La Jetee, and it was great. It holds up.
Yeah, I agree.
And Wild Mountain Thyme, honestly, I'll probably watch it again, knowing me.
Really?
Yeah, I love Emily Blunt. She's great.
Yeah, well, I love Emily Blunt, as in getting high and watching La Jetee. As in mon ami le Blunt.
Mon ami the Blunt.
Well, I mean like ami le Blunt. Emily Blunt.
Right. Right. Yes.
Yeah. That was a forced. Very bad.
Is Chris Marker still alive?
No, he died in 2012. I remember.
Oh shit! Really?
I remember when it happened. Yeah,
Where was that a sad day for you?
Well, I was on the jetway and I was but a child, and I saw him die. Then I realized it was I. I died.
Wait a minute. You're Chris Marker?
Yeah.
Oh wow, wouldn't that be so trippy? That's pretty cool, actually, to put the plot twist into the podcast episode.
Yeah, they commemorated his death with a Chris Marker, which is basically those smelly markers.
Right.
They smell like his ashes. Chris? They put his ashes in there, so it just smells like his charred corpse.
Right.
Is this disrespectful? I feel like it's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, it's almost
death happens to us all.
It's true. We're all just little boys in the jetway watching ourselves get gunned down by the future.
Yeah, man, that's friggin' truth.
Yeah.
That is verite right there.
Yeah.
I know that you are a fuzzy and you believe yourself to be a bee on some
You really
level.
had to bring that up on the podcast, Mike?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Go to fuzzy conventions.
You're just outing me on the podcast right now?
Well,
that was secret information I gave just to you over this podcast.
You didn't give it to me. I found it on your laptop while you were using the washroom. I found your fuzzy forums.
Yes.
Just looking for hot stingers in Edmonton tonight. You were?
Turns out there aren't that many, but there are a few.
Yeah. You've seen all the stingers that are in Edmonton pretty much.
Many times. Yeah. Well, if you've got a stinger, come on by.
Let me stick my little whatever their bee hands are called in your honey.
Now you know why I keep getting you little bottles of honey for your birthday.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's me trying to seduce you very subtly, but only in a fuzzy kind of way. And then I bought you that bee costume, and you're like, what's this for? And I'm like, oh, it's for Halloween. Isn't that weird? Wow.
Yeah, and the jar of honey was labeled "ma barf." And occasionally you just kind of like do little dances. And I'm like, what's Bob trying to communicate? And then only now do I realize you were trying to communicate to me via dance.
So on a side note, there's a massive nest literally on my balcony of honeybees.
Oh, yeah?
And I've never been more happy with my new roommates.
Never been.
Yeah.
Are they providing honey for you?
No, it's just mostly an infestation, to be honest with you. I can't really go out on my balcony at the moment, but don't know what to do because honeybees are great. So I don't want to get rid of them in the land. I'm trying to, I don't know. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I'm figuring it out slowly but surely.
Also, remember we did that one film shoot where we got to interview the bee lady?
Oh, that's right.
And we got to wear beekeeper uniforms and film bees in extreme close-up.
Yeah, well, you got to. I was like a kilometer away or something.
Oh, yeah, you were, yeah.
Yeah, but that was fun. That was a fun day.
Yeah, because the host of the show we were working on was allergic to bees.
Yeah.
And he had to interview
and wrote a bee episode.
Yeah.
Yes. Not all heroes wear capes.
No.
That's what I say. But all bees have stingers. Which is actually not true.
Yeah, that's not true at all.
The worker bees don't, I think, right? Yeah.
I think drone
learned
bees
all this.
don't.
Drone bees, that's right. That's right.
Those are the same thing?
What about the bone bees?
Do the queen bees have a stinger?
Yes. I believe so. That's also my nickname.
What's that?
In the queen bee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You just basically lie on the bed at the convention and everybody just kind of clamors around you.
How do you know all this?
Because I was your plus one.
Well, anything else to say about my bee proclivities or about these dig it.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's pretty. I mean, we can't not have like some weird sexual thing going on with you.
Well, we've made many digressions about me and like feet, bees, being a furry. Many departures have been made just about me. Yeah, which I am so thankful for, Mike. You know,
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't true.
I love the attention, even if it's unflattering.
Okay, well, that's great.
Mike's like, great. I got a laundry list of things I want to talk about now.
You're a freak. What can I say?
I'm just trying to drink my bubbly and do this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of bubbly are you rocking right now?
It's a pamplemousse.
Nice.
Grapefruit for those who do not speak French.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Well, now you know. Pamplemousse means
As people who listen to this episode will know, I don't speak French because I tried to pronounce French names and I butchered literally all of them.
Well, like I butchered the Irish name. You and I both have had difficulty. Maybe that's the last similarity. Both films have cast members with sort of, for Anglo normies like us, it's difficult to pronounce the names. Yeah. Any last remarks about these two films before we wrap this puppy up?
No, I do not have any more remarks about these two films before we wrap this puppy up.
Okay.
Everybody watch friggin' Jetee. It's like 20 minutes long. You can watch it on YouTube. You have no excuse.
It's free, and it is amazing. Like, it's absolutely entertaining. And it's a great little piece of like film history. And Chris Marker is a really interesting filmmaker.
Yeah. And it's also like sci-fi, before sci-fi was really cool.
Yeah. And it's creepy. Like, some of the photos are so shocking.
Yeah.
Like with the costumes and the sort of dystopian stuff when they're living underground post-nuclear fallout. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Good movie. Watch it.
Mm-hmm. And if you need a laugh and you want to be calm, watch Wild Mountain Thyme.
Yeah. Wild Mountain Thyme.
Yes. Well, this feels over.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to From Justin to Kane. Follow us on social media from Justin to Kane with the number 2 in there.
That's right.
Twitter, Facebook, I guess, Letterboxd, Instagram, and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, or Spotify. No, you can't rate on Spotify.
I don't know. I don't know. You can, but
you can rate on Apple, like the Apple Podcasts app, as well as other services.
Yeah, and tell your friends about From Justin to Kane if you know people who like film podcasts who are into movies that are the same, but are not. Wink, wink.
If you know what we mean.
If you know what we mean, yeah. Bye.
Great. Bye.